Hey guys, I'm Craig Slate.
And I'm Edward Todd.
And you're listening to
The Fresh Cred. Welcome back.
We are welcome back. It is so good to see you.
Welcome back to the award-winning The Fresh Cred. That's what I had for you.
That was the intro.
That was the intro.
What do you mean award-winning?
The award-winning podcast, The Fresh Cred.
Oh my gosh. Did we win something?
Apparently we did. Do you want to tell our audience about that?
I'd love to tell the audience.
Tell them the whole...
All right. So here's the thing. Okay. One, you guys maybe have noticed this cool-looking, beautifully crafted glass apple. We call this an apple, right? Yeah.
You may.
Crystal apple, right? So our honored guest that we have here with us, which I'll get into in a little bit, she and the company she's with, bestowed this award upon us. The wonderful organization of And Now You Know has an annual event. This is their second annual event called the Besties Award. Jordan.
It is an honor.
It is very much an honor. The award for sure, we're grateful for it. But
very exciting.
We're really excited to have
me.
you here. For having you here is awesome. And most everybody listening is going to know you. You are a known entity for sure in this business. Gosh, you've been, how long you and Rob been together working in this thing?
Oh, I joined the company in 2011, so 12 years. It's been a wild ride.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
God, 12 years, no kidding.
Yes.
Has it flown by?
It has. I mean, the company's gone through so many different sort of iterations and, team members, and I mean, we really sort of grew up together, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
At least for me and for a handful of the leadership, it was our first real sort of entry into our careers. And, I'd never managed anyone before. I'd, had a little writing desk in the corner for most of my life, and so we really sort of all grew up together. It was kind of fun to go through that adolescence and to where we are now.
So was that the original, were you part of the original group? Because it's Robin Witt that started it, correct?
It was, so Rob started it, and there were a couple people, Carlos and then Witt were really sort of the foundation of the company. And then, I came in, maybe about 4 years after they started. And when I started with the company, and Now You Know was, I think, 2 newsletters a week and maybe a couple stories and a video and a few ads. And I was the first full-time writer. Witt actually, our vice president of sales, was the writer before I came on.
Oh wow, I didn't realize
that.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's what I say when I talk about the team's gone through so many iterations. It's Witt was doing writing and sales and production. Brian LaForce was actually hired on as design and production, and now he's in sales. It's sort of, I don't know, we're this island of misfit toys that just worked out, And I always say that because I believe that the fact that literally I think everyone in the company is an artist at heart, from Rob, Witt's in film, Brian's a musician, Reed's a painter, an illustrator. Our whole entire design team has their own kind of knack. Same with the writing team. We all have our own personal writing on the side, and I think that sort of that creativity made us all sort of gravitate towards each other, and also I think it's really helped us differentiate a little bit. So.
Well, I mean, it is a great group. Love all you guys. I mean, it's been great to get to know you for all the years. I didn't realize, 12 years.
Yeah.
That's of course, I stop and think how long I've been rocking and rolling at SunFed, and it kind of shake my head.
How long have you been at SunFed now?
2015, I joined.
Oh, snap.
Yeah. So it's been a minute I've been there.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah, time gets away. It does fly by, but this business, enjoyable business to be in. I'm sure it's just enjoyable on the writing side, and you get exposed to everybody there.
A lot of great people.
Oh, yeah, the people in the business.
I was feeling a little low energy, so I just stepped out on the show floor for a minute.
You low energy, that's so weird.
Well, coffee hadn't hit yet. It has now officially hit. And who do I run into? The first person I run into when I walk the door. Just guess. We're in California.
I'm going to guess. First person you run into as you walk in on the floor.
You might guess.
It's California.
California guy.
Okay. J.C. Myers.
John Pandle.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're talking energy.
Yeah, he gave me the full download of the luncheon, the keynote, the Q&A, speakers, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, tap.
It was a good one. So
I'm hopping
We
now.
love us some John Pandle.
Yeah.
Love us some John Pandle.
And then I was laughing because you're talking about Island of Misfit Toys and being in California. Who knows? NorCal might be an island one day, so
Very
it's
true.
highly likely.
At some point, we're just going to slide right off. So yeah.
But look, you said you didn't have a manager. So you're a writer. Mm-hmm. Produce, is that what you went to school? You wanted to write about produce? Is that was the whole plan?
It's a funny story how I got how I joined the company. But yeah, no, I studied creative writing in college. I got my bachelor's, and then I got my master's in English creative writing.
Where'd you go to school?
Sac State.
Okay.
So yeah, I got my bachelor's and master's there, and then I was like, oh, now what am I going to do, right? Like I always knew I wanted to write, but is writing going to pay the bills, that sort of thing. So I went out looking for a full-time writing job, and I came across this cute little ad on like Craigslist, and it was like 3 lines.
So seriously, was it Craigslist?
It was Craigslist.
Come on.
Yeah. And I mean, Sacramento, slim on full-time writing jobs, and so I was curious more than anything. It was just like, can work full-time. I think it said like has college degree and like one more thing, nothing about the business, no contact information. You have to reply to like the post host or whatever. And at that point, I'd bartended my way through college, and so that's what I was doing. So I answered the post, and at the time it was Whit Grabitas on the other end of it, and he was just like, yeah, why don't you come on in for an interview? And he gives me the address.
Sounds more like a treasure hunt so far.
I know. Or something worse.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that, but okay.
Right? Yeah. The address is like a dark alley somewhere. No, he gave me the address. Wouldn't tell me. He's like, yeah, just come on in. We'll tell you all about the company, that sort of thing. And so
Wow, you're adventurous.
I did. Well,
Of course, you really needed a job.
I gave my mom, my dad, like the address that he gave me. And I said, if you don't hear from me in an hour, come find me. But I did a drive-by to make sure it was a building and not like an empty lot, right? So I go in, I go in and like, if you're watching right now, I open the door and Whit's standing there and he's got his mustache and he's got like a baby blue polo with like the collar popped, and I'm like, what am I walking into? But no,
Just one polo, not layered polos.
It wasn't.
Okay, you've seen that good look, right?
Yeah.
I think that's more of an East Coast thing, though.
No, I think
it?
it may be more of a '90s thing.
Okay.
But I mean, that would.
Well, yeah, I
make
mean
sense.
90s, but
Yeah,
maybe it was more
sort
East
of
Coast 90s.
kids,
Okay,
but yeah.
sorry.
I walked in and the team interviewed me, and it was actually an office building with people working. There were lights on,
So were you
There
like
were
were you like the first
devices.
person to answer the Craigslist and it's like, hey, and you're hired?
No,
The fax machine was humming.
I don't even know, to be quite honest. But yeah, they brought me in for like a second interview, which is another funny story for another time. But and then I started there part-time, still bartending, and then I went full-time, I guess maybe the beginning of like 2012. And yeah, first full-time writer, and then we slowly sort of built the team.
That's awesome.
From there. Yeah.
Awesome. I did not know that story, so.
Yes, Craigslist.
So
What's the full staff now? How many folks are we talking about?
Oh God, we're a little over 20.
Well,
Yeah, we've always kind of flown mean and lean.
Yeah.
So it's the way to do it. We're quick, we're agile, and yeah, it's fun.
So now fast forward, right? Things, you've become a very, like I said, well-known within the business. You're a great writer. Love reading your piece that you do, the editorial that you do every month in the Snack magazine. Fabulous. It's always a fun read, right? Like I say, usually it's not like, hey, tomatoes are this or that. I mean, it's really more life-focused, right? I mean, I like how you twist in the produce and life and turn that into it. But just curious, any recent changes in your life? Anything going on exciting?
Yes, I now have a 4.5-month-old daughter.
Awesome.
Her name is Nico Blue Wright, and
congratulations.
Thank you. This is her first trade show. She's hopefully going to do a spin on the floor with me if she allows me to. The little tyrant.
So that's a beautiful name, Nico Blue Wright. Any history on that?
My husband picked out the name. He was much more passionate about that name than I was about any of the choices I had.
Okay.
And so I figured if it would buy me, a couple nights of sleep, he can take it.
Figured that was
and
cool.
then I got to give her middle name, which is Blue. And yeah, so he loves it because it's sort of, there's different iterations of what the meaning is, but it's sort of like a champion of the people in Latin, and he's really always loved that
Oh, Nico
name.
is. All right, very
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah.
And so with that, you know, 'cause so you were to be on this podcast a year ago, actually, when we were at IFPA. You and I had agreed, and you know, most people don't know. I mean, you're a writer, but you're not a big fan of the whole what we're doing right here. This is
Absolutely
not
not.
something that you're like
Yeah.
really.
I'm like sweating under here.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You know, so you prefer to be the writer behind the scenes, put it in print.
I have
versus
never been on this side of the camera. I'm pretty sure. Unless it's been for like a little
No.
5-second
Yeah.
video that we've made or something. I've always been on the other side of it, miking you guys up. So it's
Well, get used to it.
I'm panicking a little bit actually, but I mean I've known you now for quite some time.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because I was what I was going to say. You begrudgingly agreed to do it
Yes.
a year ago or so, and then of course, like I say, there were other things going on in your life with the new baby coming and
Yes.
taking some time away from work. That didn't work out, so we had Rob on. So this is kind of making up for that. But even coming up to this, right? You know, it was funny.
That
You
was a
talked
good
about-
interview too, though.
That was an
Rob's-
Rob,
that
Rob
was-
great.
he's got a
Yeah,
good story. He's
I
got
learned
a lot
a-
of good stories.
I learned quite a bit about
Well,
Rob.
yeah,
I didn't know.
I had no idea that the Wall Street thing and
Yeah.
how he came to get in this business. But of course, family in Bakersfield, so you know, he's got the farmer background
Yeah.
component. But
Definitely.
but the baby, you know, leading up to this, right? You were even like, look, I mean, it's super dynamic with Nico,
Yes.
right? You know, and we got some flexibility or whatever. So you know, for you now, how long you been back? Have you gone back to work?
I went back to work a few weeks ago. So she is slowly letting me go back to work. But it's been tricky. I mean, we didn't have a really good strategy for how I would go back. You know, I didn't really have like the daycare situation like set up. We figured we'd do it on the fly like I do most everything, and then realized doing things on the fly with a newborn is not easy. So yeah, my husband took a few weeks off of work to help me transition back, and so we're pulling in the grandparents and getting a babysitter, and hopefully sometime in the next couple of weeks we'll have sort of the schedule set up. But I mean, it's tricky. Somehow I thought that I'd just be able to have her, you know, like on a little activity mat next to me, and I'd be sitting on my laptop typing stories all day.
That's not the way it
and,
goes?
you know, I thought so, but absolutely not. And so a lot of it's been, I think the first week it was mostly me holding her and then on my phone writing like an editor's note, you know, on like the little notes section, and you end up doing what you can. I mean, it's testing me in these really like amazing and beautiful ways, but it's also, like I think I was telling you earlier this week, it's amplified like all of like the best and worst qualities that I have. You know, it's like I'm type A, you know, I'm a control freak, you know, but I'm also like really sympathetic and compassionate, and I just feel like this cartoon version of myself I just feel a bit unmoored. And I mean, everyone in the beginning, you know, tried to tell me what it would be like and how hard it would be, and the buyer's remorse and you know, this, that, and the other.
I haven't heard that one.
But no, and just how tough it would be. But yeah, actually being in it now, it's unlike anything I've obviously ever experienced, and it's beautiful. I wasn't sure I was ever going to be a mother. I always sort of entertained the idea, but it wasn't until I met my husband Matt that I was like, let's, you know, like, I want to have a child with you, you know? So I think in a lot of ways, I think that's how it works for a lot of people. Like the person makes you kind of want to take that next step in life, because what a huge responsibility. And I knew going into it, having a lot of friends with, you know, with kids, and my brother actually, him and his wife just gave birth to their daughter 2 months after Nico. So the cousins will be 2 months apart, which is cool.
So cool.
Wow.
But it is tough, and it has changed the way that I want my truth to be in the world. I mean, it's just completely flipped the script on me in so many ways. And I feel in a lot of ways like I'm growing up in a different way all over again. And it's really beautiful, and it is terrifying, and a bunch of other expletives. But it's wild. I mean, you guys can relate?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think back, you know, Tanya, when you take the baby home, right? You're in this hospital,
Yeah.
and then literally,
They
for
turn
a-
you loose.
Well, yeah, for a car, you got to
With a
take a
life.
test. You
Yeah.
got to go and watch film. You got to practice, driving a car. There's all these rules.
Driver's ed.
There's driver's ed for a baby. You just go have it. They put a car seat in the back of the car, and the next thing you know, you're strapped up and taking them home. And it's like, oh wow, this is a life that we've got with. But yeah, it is. Yeah, it's super rewarding. Like you and I talked the other day. You talked about the buyer's remorse or whatever. It's one of those things where and I always felt like this. It's like people that have kids, they tell you, oh, they're great. It's the most wonderful. It's fabulous. And then you get them, and you're like, what? I think that somebody was telling me something, but the reality of it is yeah, you go through that journey. It is such an amazing experience. Now, when you're in the middle of it, there's obviously times when it's like, oh my God, this may kill me, or
Yeah.
somebody's going to die in this situation. But
And it's a lifelong pursuit.
Yeah.
I mean, I say it's super hard, then it gets easier, then it gets super hard again. So, yeah.
But super rewarding, fortunately where I'm at in life with my kids all grown for the most part. They're older. I don't know about grown, but they're older. No, but for all of them, you look back.
They're all of voting age. let's
They're
put it
of
that
all
way.
voting age, and now I've got granddaughters, which is wonderful, and but you look back on the time and growing up, and you start to forget about anything that was bad. That's the other thing. You only remember most of the high points, right? And that's good. And we get together now, and it's we have a good time. So for sure. But yeah, but again, we talked about the show and it's relevant because there's a lot of people like you. And this day and age is even different from when we were trying to bring up kids. I mean, still Ed's kind of in the midst of it with his daughter, but it's a different time to be bringing up kids.
It really is.
And trying to have a career, and then all the stuff that's going on, and the influence of social media and everything.
it's
It's you got a tricky roads to navigate that I didn't have to deal with, or my wife and I didn't have to deal with. So
Definitely. I mean,
There are also more tools, more options. There's more of everything, good and bad.
Yes. I mean, it's that whole confirmation bias that you can go out there and find evidence or a story or data or research to support really any sort of parenting paradigm or program you want to, it's wild. It's hard to get a straight answer out there in the medical community because it's pretty amazing. And it's also a gift though, right? So because we know so much more today than my parents knew. I talked to my mom and my dad, and I'm, telling them how we're hoping to raise her, or just little things here and there. And they're constantly just saying, how we had no idea. We shouldn't have put you in between us while we were sleeping. That's not a thing
that's
anymore.
not what you do. You don't do that.
I've said this before, but I mean, I feel like I'm at the school, or my wife's definitely at the school a lot more than I am. And I've said it before, fully confident that my parents aren't listening to this podcast, that I don't even think they knew where the school was. At least my dad didn't. And I feel like I'm there every other day.
Yeah. Yeah, you did not. We didn't. And certainly, I grew up in the 70s. The parents were pretty much MIA the entire. If you ever seen the show Bad News Bears,
Yes.
okay, that's not that. The kids pretty much were like that, right? I mean,
That's free. That's what they call free range.
It
now.
was free range children back in those days.
Yeah.
And we bumps and bruises. There were no safety measures. I mean, as a toddler, I stood up next to my mother in the car, so there was not even no car seat.
Yes.
I was standing up next to her. The only car seat, the only seatbelt was her arm going like this, and she was pretty good at it. She was actually very effective at.
I used to
Yes.
like to lay in the back window dash.
Oh yeah, that's another classic.
That's definitely.
We had the old Lincoln station wagon that had the seats that folded down and faced each other.
Yeah.
And we'd just be around there rolling
Those are
around.
cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is, and that's one of the things that I hope there's it's hard to say that there's going to be a renaissance of it, but I mean, when we were kids, we were out running out in the streets until the sun went down. It's a different world that we live in now, and
Yeah.
I'm hoping somehow we can get back there, because I can't imagine. But that's one of the big questions I had to ask myself is, it's, not that I was getting up there, but, I'm 40. I had Nico when I was 41, and it's, am I sure I want to bring Nico into this world? But there's so much beauty in it still, and yeah, and maybe you should just contribute to that a little bit.
No, for sure. And so you mentioned you're 41. How do you take care of yourself?
Well, if I go back to before I gave birth to Nico, I had this whole idea of how it would be, right? It's like I was, work out every day, I meditate, I write, get lots of sleep. And now, it's, I'm lucky if I get in, like a 5-minute meditation. But I mean, honestly, for me, it was what's always been like a huge source of, I don't know, of really stabilizing me and my equilibrium and that sort of thing. And my equanimity is working out. So
Okay.
as soon as my doctor gave me the go-ahead, I put Nico in the jogging stroller and I run every morning. And that does as much for, my head as it does for, like my physical health, and my emotional health. Like it's always just between the endorphins, and it's how I process things every morning. I get out there and all of the voices in the committee in my head, they sort of quiet down, and sort of it's where I do my troubleshooting in the morning. It's how I set the stage for my day. And I really do believe that what you do in the first 30 minutes or hour of your day sets the tone for the rest of your day, right? So if I get up in a frenzy and I'm bouncing off the walls, inevitably I will crash by about, like 4 or 5 o'clock. But if I get up and I can meditate, get in a run, or, get on like my yoga mat, the day is just, it's like water, more so, right? And I'm not fighting to get upstream. There's more doors that are open, less walls. And so that's really important to me, is what the first couple hours of my day looks like. And it's usually about the only time during the day that I really have any control, considering the crazy life that we have now. But it's made me a lot more patient and flexible.
Yeah.
But I do think that, between like the diet and like working out.
So what's the
it's so
diet look
important.
like? What's a couple of things either that you avoid, and then a couple of things that you think are essential?
Essential. Well, it's been tough because I used to eat, oh my gosh, like 4 crowns of broccoli a day.
Okay.
And I'm breastfeeding, and Nico, broccoli does not agree with Nico.
Ah.
Yes, so I've had to swap in for other things. So I'm now an asparagus and spinach girl.
Okay.
Yes, and because I was a big produce fan before we even got into the business, and so, and
Cauliflower?
really,
Any cauliflower?
cauliflower, not much cauliflower. I'm trying to sort of stay away from the cruciferous veggies. I think that's the thing, is that she gets gassy,
Yeah.
But and lots of fruit. I eat probably like 3 or 4 apples a day.
Okay.
Lots of water, lots of like oat products like oatmeal, oat milk. But more so than any other time in my life, like what I eat changes the way that I feel, my energy. It's really everything. And I also love donuts, so we try and keep those too.
Oh,
Instead
really?
of getting, yes.
So you don't abstain from?
I do not. No, I do not. Absolutely not. My husband and I have decided, instead of getting like a dozen every day on the weekend, we're just going to get a couple each. So we've just reined it in. Moderation, right?
Yeah,
I wasn't
there you go.
expecting that.
I wasn't.
That took a
Gosh.
quick turn.
The donuts, this morning, like out by the keynote. Oh, it was a
Yeah,
joy.
I've tried to abstain from as much as I can, that kind of stuff, because I'm not really good with moderation on anything.
You had some sourdough bread last night.
I did. I did.
I'm not either. I'm like a pendulum. It's either donuts or
That's-
or 4 crowns of broccoli. Yeah, there's no real sort of like, I'll have like a small slice of
Donut flavored broccoli.
that would be
Hey,
amazing.
Is that what you're gonna say?
Well, you know what? You got cotton candy grapes. Maybe
True, you never know.
Oh man.
Ideas.
But it probably wouldn't still. I like broccoli, like asparagus. What I'm about to say is not to say, but things that are like a donut, which is just crazy good, right?
Yeah.
The sugar. Anything that tastes crazy good just can't be. If they took broccoli and all of a sudden made it taste like a donut,
Right.
somehow I don't think it would be still good for you. I think it might taste great, but I don't think it would still
Yeah.
be good for you. You got to have some kind of bitter or something there that gives
Fair.
you some idea that the broccoli is, it's something's good for you, right?
Yeah.
And you talk about it, so the exercise thing, meditation.
The running, I had a quick question. So you're a thinking runner.
Yes.
Okay, because there's people that I've talked to that run, they say they think about nothing the whole time.
I'm a
So that's
survival
never you?
runner.
That is.
They just blank
No.
out.
No, that would be wonderful though. I would love that. No, it's always ever since I was younger. Yeah, it's always been time to process for me, I think. Except when I hit like that kind of runner's high, and then you just sort of like float for a little while, and that's nice. But for me, it's always been a tool, a tool with a great amount of benefit in that area. So.
Yeah, so I mean, I run with like a podcast or something going on. I feel like that I got to have. I'm almost spend my time. I've never actually been one of those people that enjoy running, but it became the most efficient workout. And like you say, it does all those things, right? If you get in a habit of doing it, you just feel better.
Exactly.
Right. Once you start getting in that regimen. But yeah, for me, I've got to have somebody or something yakking in my head that I'm listening to because, yeah, my whole focus is whatever, is just trying to get through it. It's like, oh my God, yeah. There's no.
There are those days.
Yeah.
There are those days. I will tell you that I've never, I've always felt better after a run, never worse. So that always gets me to it. And I'm an all or nothing person too. So it's, I've had to sort of like cut myself some slack. Like I can't go out and run 5 miles every time. If I can just get in 10 minutes,
Yeah.
if I can just break a
How
sweat.
far do you run?
These days, it's about 4 miles.
Okay.
Depending upon how Nico's doing, it's her first nap of the day, so she really gets to call it. And as soon as she's up, she's like,
Time to go home.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. The run is over.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I've never been like a marathon runner or anything like that. Like it's always been sort of, like 5 or 6 miles, enough to just really sort of like quiet the noise in my head, get a really good sweat, and then allow me to have a couple donuts at the end of the day. So.
Yeah, and you do feel better about the donuts.
Yes.
See, my donut is an old fashioned.
Oh.
So
yeah.
and that's why I
I'd
run.
rather drink his calories.
Yeah, exactly. It's just how I am. Somehow I justify the old fashioned. My wife's always like, I don't understand. You kind of stay away from sugar, but boy, that sure doesn't seem to affect your old fashions. And I was like, well, you got to have some. You got to let yourself up off the
I
mat.
feel like if you abstain, you end up eating like 12 donuts.
Exactly.
Or having 12 old fashions like at the end of the week. So.
Oh,
yeah.
that's not good.
Oh, we are in produce, so run with it. Yeah.
Well, look, I've seen the time waiver over there, so we're closing down on the time.
I feel like we just got started.
we did just get started, and it's the
I was going to
worst
talk about
part of
jumping
this.
rope. I love jumping rope. I think if you don't, it's
I
something
haven't
you can
double
manage.
dutched in a
Like it's
while.
high.
Double Dutch.
I'm sorry, double dutch?
Double Dutch.
Oh.
Can you double Dutch?
No, but I've got a speed rope. I've got a couple different ropes.
He looks like Rocky.
Oddly,
He likes
I'm
to-
actually pretty good at it.
channel
I have good
Rocky.
rhythm. I play the drums. I
He does a video.
coordinated, so I can actually jump rope pretty well. So I've got a couple different ropes, and for me, I'm not a runner. It's I just can't. I think it's boring as hell. I like to ride my bike. I like to do other things, but I can get my heart rate up like that. So
Yeah.
I'll literally in between calls, I'll go out on the front porch if I'm working from home, jump rope for a little while, come back inside, do some push-ups, get back on the
That's
phone.
a really good idea.
Because it's just
for
right.
sure.
Like you can get a heck of a workout just right in your front yard or your backyard.
Exactly. I'm jumping around for 5 minutes. I think I can go for a couple minutes at a time before I'm like,
Yeah.
whoosh. Yeah.
It's been a pleasure. It's
Thank you.
time has gone quickly. I hope the experience is going to be good enough that we can have you come back and we can.
For part 2.
Well, yeah, we want to see how Nico's progressing and how that's
Yeah.
going and how the
You guys have
job.
made
and-
it painless. Thank you. You know how terrified I was. So.
Well, next time we'll actually record. We'll hit
Yeah,
record.
I was going to say we Mason was
This is
saying
just the
also
trial run.
this is like the practice deal. This really wasn't the show. So,
Yeah.
but you did great on this. No, been a pleasure. Thank you so very
Thank you.
much. Thank you guys for everything. Thank you again for the Bestie Award. That we really are
Absolutely.
super honored
That's-
to be able to win that.
That's a big motivation for us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you
Till the
again.
end of the day.
And I hope you have an outstanding organic produce summit.
Thank you.
And Nico makes the rounds out there and gets to
Yeah.
meet everybody. You got to bring her by because
I
I'd
will.
love to meet her. Okay.
I will.
All right. Take care, Jordan. We'll see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.